All right, welcome everybody. Today I'm going to talk about how to really get out of this self-doubt trap. Most people, including myself, from time to time, spend our lives kind of trapped in self-doubt. And the more we try to get out of it, sometimes the harder it is to get out of it. So today I'm going to talk about a way to get out of it. And the tool I'm going to introduce you to is called the mirror maze. This is original work by me, something I've derived from 30 years of working with people, higher leadership, right down to employees. I hope it makes a difference for you. So I'm going to share what the problem is. I'm going to share the framework of how to get out of it, which is explaining the two mirrors metaphor that will help you get out. The solution, what's the door out of the box that's keeping you stuck, and the specific call to action. The first thing I'm going to talk about are all the symptoms of being in this self-doubt kind of box. The biggest indicators that you're in this kind of stuck place is every step you take towards confidence pushes you more towards inadequacy, like the opposite direction. And every attempt to avoid feeling inadequate makes you feel even worse about yourself. So that kind of keeps you trapped. So we're going to dive deeper into this. So what are the symptoms of being trapped in a mirror maze? Quite a lot. The emotional symptoms. If you have chronic anxiety about your performance or getting approval from your clients or certain people in your life, you're exhausted from constant self-monitoring, mood swings between confidence and self-doubt, feeling like you're never enough, no matter what you achieve, right? Persistent sense of being evaluated or judged by yourself, by other people. Any kind of relief is kind of temporary. Even when you win, the anxiety returns quickly. You start justifying all the reasons why you win and why it may have been too easy for you, or it wasn't a real test. There are other symptoms like you have perfectionism that prevents you completing much stuff. Always trying to get something perfect, perfectly designed. I know some of you do that, and that prevents getting stuff done or complete. You try to please people to avoid rejection. You procrastinate due to fear of not being good enough. So you procrastinate, you delay getting into projects because you're afraid of failing or not being good enough. Overworking to prove your worth. Avoiding challenges where you might fail. Seeking constant validation and reassurance. My God, should I continue? Well, there are more. Mental symptoms could be obsessive self-analysis, self-criticism, comparing yourself constantly to other people, maybe constantly comparing yourself to your competition, to other people in your industry, black and white thinking. It's either all good or all bad. Inability to enjoy successes, immediately moving to the next test. You got to keep testing yourself to prove yourself. Ruminating about past failures or mistakes, it keeps coming up for you. Future anxiety about maintaining your adequate status, got to work harder. Relationships and symptoms include performing roles instead of being authentic, instead of being yourself. It seems like you're an actor. Fear of being truly seen or known, because that may be scary to be fully known, like people get to know who you really are, which could be good. But your fear, you sound scared, or your fear of being thought of as too brash or too arrogant, maybe. Difficulty with genuine intimacy with people. You kind of keep people at a distance. Some people use their professionalism as a wall to keep people away, either avoiding conflict completely or being overly defensive. Should I go more? My God, this sounds horrible. Feeling like you have to earn love and acceptance. Physical symptoms can include chronic tension. You might get neck aches or shoulder aches, sleep issues from racing thoughts, like you have racing thoughts at night, digestive problems from chronic stress, fatigue that rest doesn't resolve. You seem to be tired all the time. So what is this? What is the way out? So the metaphor that I use in the model I use is called the mirror maze, mirror, maze, like two mirrors, maze. It's kind of like a maze, like it's confusing. So it feels like you're running between two opposing mirrors that reflect infinite versions of the same illusion. Every step towards one mirror pushes you directly into the other. Let me explain more. So mirror one may be that you're adequate. It's something it's a positive thing you aspire to. So I'm good enough. positive. That's mirror one, like your boss. Yeah, I'm good enough. I'm worthy. I'm successful. I'm lovable. Some of you maybe had mantras like that. The positive mirror that you try to reach. Okay. But mirror two is kind of like you're inadequate. I'm not good enough. It's kind of like the opposite. I'm unworthy. I'm failing. I'm unlovable. So the negative mirror that you're trying to avoid. You can think of these two mirrors like kind of facing each other. You're in the middle and you're stuck in this box between these two mirrors. And the exhausting dance, how the trap really works is as you try to reach more for the adequate mirror, I'm loved, for example, to feel good about yourself, your effort, the more you try to reach for the positive mirror, your effort and your desperation tends to push you towards the inadequate mirror. In other words, I'm not loved, that lovable. So you panic and desperately push back towards adequate. So it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. You push back towards the adequate mirror. The harder you push, the faster you bounce between these two mirrors. You just keep bouncing between them. And this leads to a lot of dizziness, disorientation, and exhaustion over time. You conclude you need a better strategy, more effort, or different techniques. And that just makes the whole thing worse, right? Usually because you're trying to fix it. They have an old saying in France, the more things change, the more they remain the same. In our culture, in America, or sometimes in England too, the things that you resist persist. So the more you try to fight it, change it, fix it, etc., the more it kind of persists. And the cycle intensifies and almost never seems to end. So, common examples of this is, I must succeed. I can't fail, right? So it's one mirror is I must succeed. The other one is I can't fail. So you're trying to avoid failing in order for the honorable intention of succeeding. Both kind of keep you focused on performance rather than authentic expressions. Like you're trying to fix yourself, trying to do anything, and you trying to do things to fix it or ignore it or resist it, and you keep bouncing between these two mirrors. I must succeed and I can't fail, right? That kind of keeps you very disoriented and not really present. When you're not present, you really can't be yourself, or what we call an authentic expression of yourself. Another example must be I must be loved or I can't be rejected. So you avoid being rejected. I can't be rejected. I just can't afford to do that. So you spend, if you're a speaker, you spend most of your speaking on stage trying to avoid being rejected. So you try to do all the right things. And on the other side, you want to be loved, but you can't really be loved completely because people can sense that you're suppressing yourself because you can't afford to be rejected. You're trying to avoid, you spend more energy avoiding being rejected rather than going for, being loved or giving love, right? So both block authentic relationship and connection. Right, wrong. This is very common sometimes when you get into relationships issues or in business or otherwise. One mirror is I can't be wrong. I got to avoid being wrong, making any mistakes, and then I must be right. So you keep bouncing between these two mirrors. And both prevent real, genuine learning and growth. You notice that because it's just about right and wrong. You're kind of stuck in that box. Control and chaos is another example. I must be in control, but I can't lose control. So I want to avoid being out of control in order to have control in my life. You can see how this works. It's almost crazy. I hope you are beginning to see how crazy this is and how ironic it is. And both prevent natural flow and responsiveness when you're trying to avoid losing control in order to be in control. Confident, insecure. I can't show any insecurity. So I avoid showing any insecurity, right? Or being vulnerable. So I must appear confident is the other mirror. So you kind of bounce back and forth between these two mirrors. Both create anxiety and prevent authentic presence. Both mirrors do. Strong, weak. I cannot be vulnerable. I must be strong, right? Or else people think I'm weak. So, you avoid being thought of as vulnerable. So you don't really completely put yourself at risk and share yourself in a way that has people know that you're vulnerable, but you're telling the truth. So, you're trying to be strong and you're trying to avoid being vulnerable at the same time. And both, again, block genuine intimacy and support. How do you start getting into the world of breakthrough? How do you find the door that gets you out of this box? So it's a little bit more understanding that you need to to bring to the game here. Both mirrors are showing you the same distortion, that your worth depends on which mirror you're facing, right? So your worth depends on which mirror you're facing. Most people spend their entire lives perfecting their navigation between the mirrors. They know how to move between the mirrors in a very strategic and tactical manner. They've actually developed all these. We start noticing this in the next couple of days. You start seeing how you manipulate yourself or other people or things or events in order to perfect your navigation between these two. So you kind of have this sense of being comfortable in this little box. Even though it's a lot of suffering, it's kind of comfortable for you. So they develop, or you develop, or I develop, because I'm part of this game. I'm just as human as you are. We all develop sophisticated strategies, read self-help books, hire coaches, all to get better at choosing the right mirror. But neither mirror is really working. But you all to get better at choosing the right mirror. But the mirrors themselves are the problem. I'll repeat it again. The mirrors themselves are the problem, not your technique for navigating them. It's not the technique that makes a difference. The mirrors themselves are the problem. So the first step is to start noticing these two mirrors. And you may be thinking, what are my two mirrors? And I gave you quite a lot of examples. You may have to watch this video again, maybe review it and kind of see and keep looking, because this is not linear work. You can't really look for the answer too fast. You want to struggle with it a little bit, because the more you struggle with it, the easier it's going to become later on. You got to build this muscle. In order to build a muscle, you kind of have a little bit of struggle in this game, okay? Because that will build a stronger muscle for you. If I gave you the answer right now, which mostly I can look at most people and tell them what their mirrors are, within about 5 minutes or so. It doesn't take too much to really do that, but giving you the answer ain't going to be sufficient. You want to struggle with this a little bit. I know it's bad news, but it's also good news, because once you really, really learn this in a good way, you're never going to forget it. So the door outside, there's always been a door that leads outside the entire maze. And, by the way, this whole maze is kind of made up. You kind of made this up. And it may look very real, but it's actually all just made up in your mind, your psyche, your soul, however you want to, frame it. The door out of this box doesn't look like a mirror. It's not about being adequate or inadequate. It's about stepping outside the entire game of measurement and comparison. So the game of measurement and comparison is what you may have to start letting go of, because it hasn't really worked for you. Even if it has worked, it's kept you kind of miserable. So you may be productive, but kind of miserable. Or the other way around. You may be happy, but not really producing results. What you discover as you start pushing through this door, and I'm going to give you more access to this, how to get to the door, is to start practicing authentic expression. Now, I know that's kind of a little vague, but life, expressing itself uniquely through your form. So what does that mean? It means, that you want to look and see what, if it's not being adequate or inadequate, what is the vision for your life? What is that form for your life that you want to really create that's more expressive of you? So a lot of times it's a really good idea to start looking at what your new mission statement could look like. Because a mission statement, if you start taking it seriously, most people don't take their mission statement seriously. And a mission statement is a very short statement that you can create for yourself. It could be just like one sentence that expresses the future you want to go to. Now, as you practice this more, especially you work with a coach like me, you get really better at creating a mission statement that you can really own. You can just have one mission statement in your life, and it'll start pulling you out of all these boxes that you have into the door to freedom. That's one thing to look at, is what's your mission statement, okay? And you can craft one sentence like that, very easy. An example could be, my commitment is to live a life of integrity or a life of joy. So just starting even from that, then they'll start having you think, okay, what really are the practices to maintain joy every day? But just start with the mission statement first, okay? Responding to what's needed without reference to being good enough. So one other practice to take on is, instead of trying to be good enough, or not good enough for that matter, you want to look at the situation you may be in, and look at what's really needed in terms of a specific action to take to resolve whatever is at the heart of you not feeling good enough. So if you haven't made enough money or you haven't saved enough money, what are the specific things you could do to make more money or save more money? So you could start a savings plan or an income plan. But the first thing to do is to really look at this mission statement you want to create. So the mission statement and creating a plan will start getting you, bouncing you out of this world. Okay, effortless action. It's the third one. Work and relationship from flowing from being, not from proving. Now, this is a little tricky because you have to start paying attention to as you create a new mission and as you create a new plan. You will start noticing times where you feel like you're really stressed. And that will give you an indicator if the actions you're taking or choosing to take are really in alignment with your new vision or new future that you want to go towards. So you can see this is a little tricky to do, and you kind of need the guidance of an external person, preferably a good practice mentor, who can kind of quickly catch you as you're creating a new vision. Because some people create a new mission statement, but it's just more of the same. It's just trying to fix more of the same problem. So if it's about adequacy, they say, well, I want to, inadequacy is your stuck point. You'll say, well, I live a life of adequacy. But that's just more of the same thing. Because when you think of adequacy, you think of naturally, well, I don't want to be inadequate anymore. So you're kind of stuck in the same two-mirror thing. But if you create a new mission statement, which is about love, joy, and the expression of my poetry and my artistry in life wherever I go, that's a little different now. Then you have different perspectives, different plans, different sets of actions. So instead of the actions you may have been doing before, which kind of put you more stressed out or leave you more stressed out, you maybe have more dialogue with the people who are really interesting to you, people who really have your back. So you can create more different kinds of dialogue with people and hence start getting out of that box. Those are some of the things you can start doing to get outside this box, okay? Other things that you can do is to start recognizing or asking the question, what does it mean to be really confident? See, most people, when they ask that question, they answer that question, they find a reason. Well, I'm 6'5", so I have a lot of confidence because I'm tall. Or, I have this amazing resume and that's what gives me confidence. Or on the other side of it, I'm too short, so I don't have that confidence, or I don't have the good enough resume. So what do people do? They go to school, they go to MBA, spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I'm not saying don't go to do an MBA. I'm just saying a lot of people go to MBAs for the wrong reason. Or they go to get more education, or they pay more for a program without really thinking about what could confidence look like without any standards or measures that you had from your past. Or to really adopt a standard or measure for confidence that fits you more, that feels more natural for you, that enlivens you more than suppresses you. Another place to look from is what I call undefended love. So most people, when they look at being more loving, for example, they try to find, again, reasons to be loving, or love that has to do with protecting themselves or proving your worth, rather than love for just love itself. So what would it be to have undefended love, where you don't have to prove anything and you don't have to protect anything? What would that look like? And I know that's an inquiring question, and it might drive some of you who are looking for answers right away a little crazy, but I hope it does, because you got to struggle with this again, okay? I promise you there are answers, but the answer is usually in the journey that you take rather than the answer itself. You got to go through this journey, and it's in the journey that you discover, well, the real answers. Being home, the recognition that you never needed to be anything or anybody else. You can just be yourself and still be successful. So what does it mean to be yourself? Part of that answer is really looking at what your mission statement could look like. I keep telling my clients this, you're never trapped in the mirror maze. You never were. The mirrors were just reflecting the belief that you needed to be somewhere other than where you are at now. So if you step outside and discover or be in the space of adventure, taking a bit of risk and stretching yourself to find out, who you really are, you are the space in which all mirrors appear. What do I mean by that? It means basically that you are the source of creating this mirror. You made it all up. These two mirrors, the box, you made it all up at some point, because at some point, I don't know if any baby was born with the mirror maze. The mirror maze came out of a decision that as a baby he was going through his life and he was really happy, excited, joyful, playing, fully self-expressed. And then something happened. Parents may have said something or somebody else said something and you went, oh man, I can't say that anymore. And your box went a little bit smaller. And then, other events occur. And by the time you're a young adult, your box is about this big when it used to be like completely open. So it's really you who were the source of creating this mirror maze. Nobody else did it for you. And that's a good place to start. It's a good place to look at, because if you created it, you can uncreate it. Nobody else did it for you. You did it. So you have an opportunity to really like take it on for yourself. Now, I realize that some of this may sound a little abstract, but I hope it's kind of triggering thinking for you, because I'm trying to get you to think in a different way. Instead of trying to force yourself and force a solution, which is what most people do, and it doesn't work, I'm forcing you to kind of think, kind of really think and look for yourself and what's really missing for me. Maybe start shifting away from what's wrong or even what's right and look at what's missing in your life. And that might tell you a lot more. So what's missing could be adventure, or what's missing could be taking a risk that could be good for you. What's missing is personal growth. What's missing is maybe having a dialogue with more people to discover what's missing for you. But I'll tell you one thing, once you're outside the maze, you realize that both mirrors were showing illusions, distorted reflections of a constructed identity, one that you made up yourself. Your true nature doesn't need reflection or validation. It simply is. And people are usually disarmed at how simple this is once they achieve this, once you really start being yourself, whatever yourself is, and you start seeing how wonderful that is, how connecting you are to other people, then there's really nothing to prove. It's just simply what it is. Who you are, it's just simply what it is. Adequacy and inadequacy are equally irrelevant. Neither touches who you really are. They're just words that describe something or describe a standard that you thought was valid. But I hope you start breaking through that and start seeing that that's just one way or two ways maybe to measure who you are. Maybe you don't even need to measure who you are anymore. And that would be total freedom. Like if you didn't have any need for a measure of who you are. You are the awareness in which all the experiences arise, the space, not the content. So you are kind of like what I call a clearing for things to occur. So if things are not really quite going well, then you can start, if you start doing this work that I'm describing, and you maybe reach out to me and have a conversation, you will start seeing that you're really at the source of it all. Your success, your failures, everything. But that's really good news. It's not something else to beat yourself over the head. I know some of you are already thinking that. But it's actually a way out, because if you made up this whole crazy world, you can unmake it just as easily. Now, it might seem like it wasn't that easy, but I promise you it really is, because it's just a figment of your imagination. What remains now is pure existence, expressing yourself or itself moment by moment without reference to any mirror at all. In other words, you're being yourself more often than not, or perhaps all the time. So, the teaching here today is to stop trying to get to the right mirror. Stop trying to avoid the wrong mirror for self, either the right or wrong mirror. Both strategies keep you trapped in the maze. So if you're feeling inadequate or adequate, they're still kind of like the same mirrors. You're kind of trapped in that box. The question isn't how do I become inadequate or how do I avoid being inadequate? The question is, where's the door? So I hope I'm starting to open this up for you. Hope this gives you curiosity and intrigue to dig deeper into some of the other videos I may be posting in the future. So you get more clarity about this. Feel free to reach out to me and have a consultation with me if you're really intrigued and you're committed to making a difference with yourself and other people. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Look in the description in the YouTube video description, and you'll see access to getting a consultation with me. There's a statement I share with people for, what else is there but to be? Being of which is invented at the very moment one bees. So I know that's what we call reflexive language. It's kind of like poetry, but it's better than poetry because it kind of gets you to think a little bit. So for what else is there but to be? You could say be yourself, but to be yourself, being yourself of which is invented. You invent it at the very moment you start being. My invitation is to start moving away from being right and wrong and maybe exploring being something else, like being yourself. But what does being yourself look like? It could be being someone who's courageous, being someone who's brave, being someone who expresses beauty all the time and love all the time. So pure existence or being lies beyond all those mirrors. I hope that makes a difference for you. If you have questions, feel free to put that in the comments down below. I look forward to interacting with you in the near future. Take care and have a great day.